Warning: this program contains mature, sensitive themes with mentions of intense violence. Whilst no imagery is depicted, viewer discretion is advised. Fun, joy. The 22nd of May 2017 was meant to be a wonderful night for concert goers at the Ariana Grande show at the AO Manchester Arena. That experience was destroyed when Salman Abedi committed a suicide bombing at the arena. That day, 22 lives were taken and over 14,000 were at the venue, leaving many injured both physically and mentally. I'm Naomi-Lee Kativu, and since 8 years have passed from the catastrophic tragedy, I wanted to find out what mental health support have the survivors had, was it adequate in helping them heal, and how have these individuals managed to help one another in their newfound community. A large majority of the survivors were young fans of Ariana Grande. Many were still at the age of being in school. I wanted to know how support was for them both in the early days and in the present. I went to Manchester to speak with survivors of the attack, Callie Fenton and Abby J. Albert. After the attack, they were wanting to receive mental health support for the trauma they experienced. They relayed how this was.
It's been quite a longed out journey, and I think it should have been very on the ball as soon as it's happened, especially for we were children. I was 13, Callie was 12. We were young, and I know there was many other children that were younger, and now adults trying to navigate life but struggling because they didn't get that initial support that they needed when they needed it.
It was a lot of frustration from me and my mum as well. My mum pushed a lot for them to try and help me, because there's no point waiting 6 months if the damage is already done when you could help straight away. For a long time, I felt like because that they weren't supporting me, that meant that it wasn't that big of a deal, because if it was, then they would have been helping me by then.
I actually got counselling a year after it, and it was through the One Love group. My mum put in the Facebook group that I was struggling and that I'd still not been offered any kind of support for it. And one of the other parents recommended 42nd Street, which is this children's counselling place in Manchester. So I went there for 40 sessions or something, and I was really getting comfortable with talking about feelings of survivor's guilt, and I was just about getting to the place where I could talk to her about my experiences at the arena. And counselling stopped. I was only entitled to a certain amount of sessions, otherwise I would have had to pay for it. And it was quite emotional, my last session, because I know that she didn't want to stop supporting me.
The Home Office Victims of Terrorism Unit, also known as VTU, did a review in March of this year of the current support provided for survivors of terrorism. Survivors pointed out a few issues, including mental health support. When talking about mental health support, survivors voiced that it was hard for them to access timely mental health treatment that worked on their specialised trauma through the NHS. This was especially something they felt needed to be in place for young people. What was suggested was having a toolkit to healthcare professionals in the aftermath of an attack, and to expand the current support they provide to include mental health. Helen Gent took her daughter Elise Waddington to the Ariana Grande concert as a surprise for her 11th birthday. Helen spoke on the difference of mental health assistance for her and for her daughter.
The next day, it was just going back to normal. Elise went to school. I had a dentist appointment, and I'm sat in the dentist chair, and she said, "Have you heard about this bomb?" And I went, "Yeah, I were there." She went, "No." I said, "Yeah, I were there." I said, "Me and Elise were there." And then it was the Friday, and I went out with a couple of friends and just literally collapsed. I was an absolute mess. I had time off work. I had counselling. It was really, really good. I got sent to another counsellor as well, so I had 2 different types, and it really helped. My daughter, however, was only 11, went to school, didn't get that much support. We knew nothing about the Manchester group that was being formed. Nobody told you anything. And I did it off my own back, and because work are really, really good, they understood and provided some of the counselling, and then I had some of my own, so that I was sorted. But there was nothing really for Elise.
Lisa Giggany and Joe Berry work with Survivors Against Terror, a network of survivors and individuals affected by terrorist attacks. They aim to help others who have been in their position, campaigning, writing reports, and overall trying to incite change. They gave me some insight into what is being done to help survivors, but also what still needs to be improved.
We have people, didn't we, from Manchester whose parents were getting support earlier than the children, and it was really sort of causing a lot of problems within the house. It's not fair, is it? And I think the type of support as well, I think even mental health professionals will recognise that, you know, a lot of people that might provide really good mental health support aren't equipped to deal with someone that's been in a terror attack. They just don't have that skill set. So there needs to be that training, because someone will go in for 8 sessions, and if their trauma's been so compounded because they've waited for so long, then 8 sessions is just going to open a can of worms and it's not going to help them.
I think we've got a lot more politicians, ministers interested. We've got experts in all the different areas and all the fields, and so definitely being very positive that change is there. And I think the evidence from a recent terrorist attack was that they were given very different support right at the beginning than any other attack. So yeah, we are definitely making good headway.
There are still ways to find hope in dark moments. For example, the government recently announced that the 21st of August would officially honour and remember victims and survivors of terrorist attacks. As well as this, individuals have been able to find comfort in one another through their shared experience. Callie and Abby are in a Facebook group together known as the One Love group, which they told me more about.
We met through the group when it was first made, and we met after at One Love, and then through the years we ended up going to different meetups. That we went to the Resilience Hub a few times, where they had it's kind of like art crafts days and stuff, and like just a lot of people who were there together.
It just kind of like grew into a community of like 400 plus people.
So, whilst there is still a long road ahead in aiding these survivors and many others with mental health support, the community bonds that they have created amongst one another gives them a hand to hold and hope for the future.